So the other side, the other part of the crappity crap, the crappity part of it is this old left-wing playbook, the left-wing playbook that of protecting people by their identity from the consequences of their actions if they are leftist. Because it's not really black people they defend, it's not really women they defend, it's not really gay people they defend, it's only leftism. If believe me, Brandon Strzok, who's running the walk away movement, is going to be slandered, libeled, they'll find anything they can on him, they'll go after him all the time. Believe me, they're not going to suddenly say, oh, he's gay, so criticizing him therefore is gay. They don't say, oh, Mark Levin, he's Jewish, criticizing him, Ben, he's Jewish, he's criticizing him is therefore anti-Semitic. No. They do not say that. But if you're Barack Obama, suddenly your blackness becomes a magical shield, and anything that touches it is, in fact, racist. I mean, that is their old playbook, and now they're pulling it out with the Jews, and that is laughable considering the anti-Israeli talk that has come out of the left wing, and exclusively out of the left wing. And, I won't say that. Anti-Semitism knows no politics. Anti-Semitism is evil. Evil knows no politics. We all have evil people. But as I've said before, the evil on the right, it's the alt-right. It's our extremists who we reject. They call them alt because it's alternative. It's not the right. The BDS movement, I always get confused. Is that the one where you dress up in leather and tie people up, or is that the one where you just dump on Israel? I can't remember what it is. It's boycott and divest. That's what it is. To boycott and divest Israel is a mainstream left-wing movement. But listen, I picked out Samantha Bee because she was the most absurd version of this. But listen to Samantha Bee tell you all the ways that you are suddenly, nobody cared about anti-Semitism on the left. Nobody cared about it until they thought, oh, we can play up these dead people. Oh, there's dead people. Look. We can get some votes with dead people. Bring in the dead people. Let's hold them up. Hold up the dead people and accuse the right of this. Listen to Samantha Bee, the most absurd version of this. Anything you say now makes you an anti-Semite.
But the truth is, the Republican Party tolerates anti-Semitism and benefits from it. Mainstream conservatives would never say anything negative about Jewish people outright, but there are other words they use, like coastal elites, globalists, Hollywood liberals, or John Leibowitz. And currently, the biggest, loudest dog whistle is George Soros.
George Soros. This is killing me. George Soros. George Soros gives billions and billions of dollars to organizations that are meant to open up borders, to destroy nationalism. He wants a global world. I have to say, I will say this about George Soros. George Soros grew up, obviously, in the Nazi regime and actually worked as a kid for the Nazis. I can't remember what exactly he was doing. He was identifying Jews or something like this. And I've never held that against him. He was a kid under nobody can know how they would behave under that regime. It is that one interview he gave where he said he's never had any problem. It was one of the best jobs he ever had. It was kind of a sick, creepy thing to say. But I'm not even passing judgment on that. But I will say it is as if he has turned himself into the stereotype that Hitler would levy on Jews, that he's like a banker and he's a globalist and all these things. So he has made himself into that. But that does not excuse, remember, this is the guy who said the greatest obstacle, I'm quoting from memory, but it was the greatest obstacle to stability and peace in the world is the United States of America. That was because he hated the war on terror. This is a guy who funds organizations meant to destroy conservatism, meant to destroy borders. This is a guy who crashes currencies. Attacking him is not anti-Semitism unless attacking every Jew. If saying that you disagree with Ben Shapiro is anti-Semitism, then okay, everybody is protected. But it's only leftist. It's only leftist. And let's not forget how Harry Reid used the fact that he couldn't get sued on the Senate floor to go after the Koch brothers, who give a fraction of what Soros gives. And all they want is free markets. All they care about is free markets. They're libertarian. They're not particularly conservative. The Koch brothers. Let's just go back down memory lane. Let's listen to how Harry Reid demonized them.
The Kochs want everyone to believe they're not the ones rigging the system to benefit themselves and their wealthy friends. The Koch brothers are spending their vast wealth holding newspaper and television interviews on their propaganda campaign. But in spite of all their efforts, this Koch media tour has failed to bury the one simple truth. The Koch brothers are trying to buy America. During an interview yesterday, the scales fell away once again and revealed the Koch's true intentions in justifying his and his brother's efforts to inject hundreds of millions of dollars into conservative political campaigns, in fact, almost $1 billion. Charles Koch said, quote, "I expect something in return," close quote. The Kochs are getting plenty in return. So far, they bought a Republican House, a Republican Senate, a government shutdown, an ousted Speaker of the House, a shuttered export-import bank, and a Republican presidential field which nearly every candidate kowtows to these billionaires.
So this is part of what Kim Strassel, the Wall Street Journal, called the intimidation game. You know, when a top senator, I mean, he was the head of the Senate at that point, the majority leader at that point, when a senator like that stands up and vilifies you on the Senate floor, you can't sue him, but it does cost you money. It costs you business. It costs your good name. Your good name is under review. I'm not, by the way, the Koch brothers aren't Jewish. I'm not suggesting that. But what I'm saying is he was allowed to demonize guys who were just contributing their money to political causes they believed in, which were mostly libertarian, free market causes. He demonized them. But if we say, hey, you know what? George Soros is really a bad operator. He's a bad operator. Suddenly his Jewishness, which of course is just nominal, he's not actually a practicing Jew, suddenly his Jewishness is the only possible reason we could be criticizing him. Let me just read you just a little excerpt from two op-eds that both ran in the paper today, one in the New York Times, one in the Wall Street Journal. I strongly recommend any liberals who are listening to this, just one day, read the op-eds in the New York Times and read the op-eds in the Wall Street Journal to see the difference in tone between the left and the right. There are a couple of people in the New York Times who are all right. Duthot is all right. There are a couple of people, but most of their columnists are screaming 8-year-old girls who've just seen a mouse. That's the way that, it's, what was the one that John, I can't remember his name right now, but they ran a column yesterday saying hate is on the ballot. Hate is on the ballot. I mean, I just love that. Hate is on the ballot. Like that's what you're voting on. That's the level of tone. And just listen to these two different, the logic level in these two different op-eds. Here's the one from the New York Times. How vilification of George Soros moved from the fringes to the mainstream. On both sides of the Atlantic, a loose network of activists and political figures on the right have spent years seeking to cast Mr. Soros not just as a well-heeled political opponent, but also as the personification of all they detest. Employing barely coded anti-Semitism, they have built a warped portrayal of him as the mastermind of a globalist movement, a left-wing radical who would undermine the established order and a proponent of diluting the white Christian nature of their societies through immigration. Now, let's just pause there for a minute. All of that is true, except for the fact of the white Christian nature of their societies. Nobody is caring about that. It is about unchecked immigration. That's all it's about. It is changing the culture and the tone and the of the country and giving away its services to people who are just breaking in. And they have a quote from somebody who says, he's a banker, he's Jewish, he gives to Democrat, he's sort of a perfect storm for vilification of the right here and in Europe. So that is the logic on the left. That is the logic on the left. And remember, George Soros is the guy who says the main obstacle to a stable and just world is the United States of America. That's the way they think. Now they've got a guy who is, I think he's a bad person. I think he is a kind of a kook, a narcissistic kook. He himself has said he has a messiah complex. Now they've got a guy and they can link this to this killing in Pittsburgh. That's the logic, right? Criticize a man, happens to have Jewish blood, therefore you're an anti-Semite, therefore you are responsible for the killings in Pittsburgh. That's the logic on the left. Wall Street Journal, The Many Faces of Jew Hatred, from Ruth Wiss. Instead of prompting a serious inquiry into the ideology that fuels the murder of Jews, the atrocity seems to be reinforcing a misconception that can only worsen the problem. Anti-Semitism is not synonymous with Hitlerism, which is the only form of anti-Semitism that has gone down in military defeat. Anti-Semitism is a politics of misdirected blame, and Americans must be sure to avoid its trap. What could be worse than the specter of Nazism here in America? In fact, it is politically comforting to cast this killer in the light of Nazism. Unlike in Germany, where the attacks on Jews were launched by the Führer, the head of the country, our head of government ordered the full press of law enforcement to prosecute the gunman. Unlike in Germany, where the SS, essentially a police force, directed and fomented the attacks on Jews, here, four policemen were shot trying to save these people, and many more ran to the scene. Always remember that when they start talking about Hitler, when they start talking about this country is Nazi, fascist, always remember that is the difference. The authorities here are on the side of justice most of the time. And certainly the cop on the beat, certainly our president, certainly the main actors in this are looking to do what's right. Finally, she says, the most discouraging feature, she starts to talk about how anti-Semitism comes in all shapes, as I said, right-wing and left-wing, but she talks about the divestment movement in Israel. She says the most discouraging feature of the anti-Israel brand of anti-Semitism is its penetration of Western societies, including the U.S. That a single shooter wants to kill the Jews is less dangerous to this country than Louis Farrakhan's smiling designation of Jews as termites, broadcast to a vast audience. On Twitter, by the way, and he still hasn't been taken down from Twitter, though my pal Gay Patriot was taken down for being, what, a gay patriot. That's what. Or the vicious movement to boycott Israel, an extension of the Arab boycott launched in 1945, the incursion of fanatical anti-Israel politics into the American campus, and the Democratic Party is a threat not to the Jews alone, but to what they represent in liberal democracy. Even if you disagree with this, it's logic. She's talking about something that is real. Everything they do on the left is politics, and it is all so much crap. Russia collusion, just trying to overturn the election. Why is that even a story? Why has it been a story for 2 years? Why have we listened to person after person saying, oh yeah, wait till the real story breaks? Brett Kavanaugh, believe all women. Why aren't they covering it? Why is a serial rapist allowed to be chasing Ruth Bader Ginsburg around the, Supreme Court bench, which I'm sure is what's happening right this minute. I'm sure Elena Kagan is like, oh my God, goodness, unleashed has this monster been upon our lives. Why did it disappear? Crap. It's crap. Sex abuse, real, but it's a left-wing problem. Even Trump's worst attitudes toward women are all left-wing. He is a creature of the left in many ways in this way. It is just all of it. All of it has been political. You have to step back because the tone in this country is toxic, but it only involves a small number of people. Most people every day are getting along, having a good time. Most people are not shouting at their congressman. Most people are not rioting and screaming in the streets. And all of the people who are left wing. Most people are not blaming each other, as Don Lemon did, on the basis of race. Most people in this country, this is, as I've said before, the least racist country. You have to step back. You have to stay calm. You have to remember that this is a narrative that is being created mostly by one side, and you have to see things clearly, or else they will drive you insane.